Good morning. It's knocking on 11 a.m. here in Sarasota, Florida on Saturday, December 31st, 2022. About 3.5 years ago, I test ran a series called Stories of Synchronicity. I think I only released two, maybe three, and I will put one up on my YouTube channel for that will be available for returning subscribers to see on their pages if they're a subscriber to my channel. And for anybody that isn't a subscriber, you can go back. It was like around, I know exactly when it was, second week of June 2019, when I did the first one, because it was inspired by an Ironman event that I worked in Madison, Wisconsin, which always takes place on the 1st of June. So it would have been released the second week of June in 2019, Stories of Synchronicity #1. This will be either #3 or #4. What took place immediately after my last video may take the #1 spot on my list of the most astounding synchronicities of my life. Shit you can't make up. I could not have made up this story if I had tried. The power of the divine, I don't care what you call it, the cosmos, source, creation, God, the universe, I'm telling you, it's real. I'll never be able to describe it with words. It's what I keep saying. I just must continue to live it. And to me, it is the all that animates us, the all that is us, the all that is constantly beckoning us to allow it to be easier and more fun and to work with it, since it behooves us to do so, because there really is, in reality, in this oneness, there is a divine intelligence playing out through us. I say this and I believe it, and I have no need to convince anybody else. I'm not sharing to convince or debate anybody. I'm sharing because it's fucking unbelievable. And when one starts to pay attention in their life, I feel comfortable in saying that I will guarantee you will begin experiencing such things in your own life. In fact, this is how life, the game of life, is supposed to be played, with us surrendering to the divine intelligence of synchronicity. Okay? And this story, as if I don't need any more proof. At least I keep saying I don't need any more proof. Yet Spirit keeps giving me these undeniable examples of holy shit. Don't try to overthink it, Alyson. Don't try to control it. Your job is to actually work less, be less anxious, surrender more, and trust in the creation that you claim to believe in and trust in. And it's like it keeps calling bullshit out on me. It's like, listen, you still aren't living it to the level that you claim you believe it. And this is how I'm interpreting the story I'm going to attempt to share with you. This is how I'm interpreting the message, because it's like an oh my God, like, oh my God. So with that said, and acknowledging it's probably unlikely that I'm going to live up to the hype of the energy that just came through me, I'm not going to say that everybody that sits here and continues to watch is going to necessarily get it or see what I'm saying with this story, because they're not easy stories to share. It's not easy because time, I can't tell it in a linear time. The energy, as I've shared before, is spherical, it's radial, it's not linear. So telling stories of synchronicity is challenging because you've got to pull and you've got to see how to present it to people who are used to being told and living things in linearity, in a linear direction. You've got to figure out how to not lose them when you share the story. Okay, so here I go. And this coming together of it. So the pieces of the story I'm going to share, and then the coming together of it, the revelation of no way, came immediately after I finished my last video 3 days ago. Okay, so here it is. Oh gosh, okay. Oh, I hope I can convey this. All right, and I put this painting behind me up because it's a key part of the story. If not in the energy of that painting, it's a key part of the story. All right, so I have been donating plasma at a plasma place in town since early 2020. The company switched over about a year ago. The guy that I'm is part of the story, his artist name is Brush Pile. I can't, he wasn't there in the beginning. He wasn't there when it was the original company, Ked Plasma. So he's only been there like less than a year. And I only donated about a third of the year because it's not necessarily, it takes a lot out of my little body. So I have to just really be cognizant of that and then make sure I take breaks. So at the most, he's been in my circumference about a year. And this guy is extremely notable. Like he's so happy all the time at work, all the time. And, you know, I don't think I'm offending anybody if I say I'm pretty sure that working at a plasma place doesn't represent the life dream of many people, right? So to see a guy at a regular job this happy all the time stands out. He's got a great light personality. All right, so I had interacted with him the most because he doesn't work on the floor. He's not one of the people that needles you and as you sit there to donate. So I see him, but he's never interacting directly with us like the rest of them that work there. He's more fixes machines and things like that. So this guy, about it's probably 4 months ago, maybe even 5 months ago, I almost passed out, which on occasion happens. If I'm not careful again with my hydration and my exercising, my blood pressure is really low and my pulse is always really low. So I have to be really careful to make sure that I eat enough and that I'm not too dehydrated when I go donate, or I can pass out. So he was actually there making sure I didn't pass out. And I had a direct interaction with him about 5 months ago. But somehow, about 2 weeks ago, again, he was fixing machines. So I saw him, and somehow we had a different recognition because it was almost like he didn't remember having that 15, 20-minute interaction with me, making sure I didn't pass out. And all of a sudden we had a different recognition. We both saw it, and you can feel it and see it in our eyes. At least that's how I experienced it. But it was noticeable. The very next donation, he actually was on the floor sticking people, and this is rare. And it's also rare, the statistical likelihood of him getting me to stick, because there's a number of them that could be working on me. So he comes to stick me and he's like, hey, what are your plans for today? And I'm like, well, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, got some errands, hope to do some painting, hope to do some writing, work on some projects. And he's like, oh, you're a painter. Let me see one of your pieces. So we began to have a talk about art, because as it turns out, he's been painting for 3 years. And it was just incredibly, anytime I meet an artist, it's an incredibly inspiring experience, because that is how I see myself, is as an artist. And my entire life is a piece of art. And then, of course, I have subcategories of art things that I do. I do a little painting. I am hoping to be a published writer soon, and all of these things. So I just was completely turned on by the conversation, as was he. And I got his Facebook name so I could look at his pieces. And so then we became Facebook friends. And not a week later, I think it was 9 days later, this painting behind me comes out of me. And I posted on Facebook the painting, and I tag him on Facebook because I'm like, hey, man, you are like the single biggest. Now, there's a lot that inspired me. Anything that comprised my life in the days leading up to that painting are part of the energy coming through that painting. But by far, he and him alone and his unique energy and our connection was the biggest energy and the biggest inspiration to this particular piece. So I tagged him on Facebook. Okay, pause. Now let's go back in time on the linear timeline again. Okay, but they almost coincide. Simultaneously, as I'm having these conversations and establishing this relationship and this knowing with this guy, I have a little mini trip planned and again, I have to be very cognizant of protecting the identity unless they're already publicly known in some way, of the people that are part of my stories. I will never share individual names unless I have the permission to do so. So I was in the process, as I was experiencing this with him 2 weeks ago, of planning and making the final plans and picking the specific times and days to take a little road trip, not a long one, a little one, with a friend from my farm community to visit another friend from my farm community here in town. So as we engage in our visit, we talk about lots and lots of things. And we were visiting another female. And as what will happen with single females is the topic of men and dating will come up. So we were conversing a little bit about the topic in general of relationships and our experiences in those relationships. And she mentioned a guy that she had dated when she was an undergrad, and she first met him in 2005. 2005, 17 plus years ago. Okay. So she mentions him and says a little bit about him, and only good thing. Like it was a fantastic relationship, and she was someone that she, even after they kind of stopped seeing each other formally, when she was back in town, she would catch up with him. So and she even said there that I don't even know why I brought him up. Like I haven't thought about him or talked about him in a long time, because in recent years they haven't maintained that regular catch up when she comes back into town to the Sarasota area. So she's talking about this guy, and again, some specific things: that he used to be a paramedic, that he was Jamaican, that he was extremely high energy and super fun. And so this is all transpiring in our conversation right within 3 or 4 days of my experience at the plasma place. So if you haven't put it together yet, okay. So then now let's fast forward to 3 days ago. I post this on Facebook. Okay. The friend I went to see sees this post on my Facebook or come up in her feed, and she sees who I tagged, and she private messages me, and she says, wow, strange coincidence, but it's interesting that you know Brush Pile too. And then I'm like, what? And I'm like, what do you mean? And then she follows it up in another message in Messenger, and she says, I used to date him in undergrad. And I'm like, and then sends another message, and I'm like, what? And because I remembered our conversation from the week prior, and I'm like, wait a second, the guy that she dated in undergrad, that was the paramedic. That was the guy, like, wait a second. There's no way this is the same guy. And yes, it's the same guy. The plasma place where I've been going for almost 3 years now. Granted, he's only been there a year, but I've seen this guy over and over and over again. He's noticeable. He's positive and energetic. You know, we have this crazy interaction that inspires me to get painting again. And here's also the kicker. In my last video, he was one of the men that I referenced. I had referenced him. So this guy was like so activated in my energy. And then as that's going on, I go up and see this friend, and she talks about the guy, of course not knowing that I knew the guy, because why would we think I knew the guy? From 2005, I've only known her for like 6 or 7 years. So it's like, and she wouldn't have known if I didn't put this painting on Facebook. She definitely wouldn't have known if I wouldn't have tagged him. And I'm like, it was, again, not sure if I'm able to convey, if people can put that all together and appreciate the unbelievable unlikeliness statistically of this playing out in this way. I don't know that you just captured that, but that is what happened, regardless of how I was unable or able to convey that just now. It is amazing. What does it mean? I have absolutely positively no idea, other than, as I shared in the beginning, it is another walloping whop on the head from universe going, I keep telling you, I keep telling you, trust me, surrender, stay connected, stay humble. You are part of humanity going through a massive shift in our evolution. You're going through it. And one of the biggest ways that what we're shifting into is learning to live by synchronicity. Learning to live by synchronicity. And the guy that is the energy behind this particular version of the 13 moon calendar, Jose Argulis or Arugulis, who passed away in 2011, this man wrote his story. I just finished a biography about him. And in it, the whole thing is about synchronicity, because the whole decoding of the Mayan galactic information that serves as the foundation for this version of the 13 moon calendar, it's all mathematical. And the entire reality is mathematically based. Time is the fourth dimension. Time is ultimately a mathematical matrix of synchronicity. And the example I just shared, whether you're able to understand, capture, believe, see it, is an example of exactly what I had been reading in this book for the past few weeks, what I've been living by with this calendar for 13 years. I just had the most prominent example of that in my life. Now, I will do better at explaining these, because this is the other one that took place I touched upon in my last video, when I said that as soon as I took a different energy approach to my world of my local race work, and I wrote feedback and sent it directly to the top people of this particular event, a very nerve-wracking thing for me to do, because I have already experienced directly what happens in certain areas of my life when I start sharing the more authentic version of myself. And in a lot of cases, that means actually sharing an opinion, because I have a very positive energy that generally will keep her mouth shut, a very powerful energy, big energy. And I keep my mouth shut unless asked when I'm out in the world working for others. I know my place and I know my role. And out in the world of working for others, almost across the board, I'm on the ground, lower floor. They don't see me. They don't see me as even being able to give them any information that's valuable to them. Okay. And when I step up in that area, which I know I have the capability of doing, it has the potential to completely throw off the entire relationship dynamic. So much so that I have lost more relationships in the past, specifically 3 to 5 years, than I care to talk about, because it's been incredibly painful to lose relationships with people that I never thought I wouldn't be friends with, simply because I'm no longer playing the small guy. Okay. And I'm trying to step into what my greatness, and not having that well received. So as soon as I wrote this email, I knew I was taking a risk of, you better be prepared. They might not want you around when you start, stepping into your complete power. They might not want you around. And within 48 hours of sending that email, 48 hours, not one, but 2 new opportunities of work, brand new opportunities for work, fell into my lap. Now, let me say, neither one of those is 100% finalized right now, but I will know on both of them by the end of next week, if one or both is going to be finalized, if I choose to take the offers, etc. So that was also an enormous, almost immediate manifestation of the energy and at the underlying foundation, synchronicity involved. But this one, the story of this painting, Playing with 13, this story of synchronicity, again, whether I can convey that, whether I conveyed it or not, I don't really care, because I just needed to at least try to capture it in a relatively close. I've calmed down quite a bit from how excited I was. I was flying so high on Wednesday, I can't even tell you, because of the astounding realization of what had just happened, and how unlikely it was. And to feel that, and what made it even better is the friend I had gone to visit, like how that felt. Because of course we were talking about the 13 moon and synchronicity in our vision. Of course we were talking about that. I'm not going to be spending my time leaving my home, and like, the people I choose to spend my life with and my time in this, like from here on out, I am more careful than I've ever been. Meaning, there has to be a bare minimum of frequency if I'm going to go out, unless I'm having to earn $1. There's, in terms of I don't know how to say this without explaining it, and also without not sounding like kind of an asshole, but I'm not interested in feeding the old world. I'm not interested in it. And I know how much talent I have to play and be and create in the new world, And I also know how much that can serve this world and not harm it at all. So it makes it even more powerful from my humble opinion, because I'm supposed to, this is where my role is, to help bring into physical manifestation so that it can be seen, example after example, of how we can do it better. Okay, we can do life better, meaning we can have it be easier for more people. We can have it be more fair economically for more people. We can be more independent from these systems that are clearly corrupt and don't have our best interests at heart. We have the ability to do this together better. I'm not going to pretend that that's not a massive fucking role and important and doesn't have value, because it fucking does, if only to me. And that's all I really need to care about. So this is where I know I'm supposed to be. But I also know how much it can benefit this world, because I'm not an idiot. Because even though I haven't been playing this game, most of my peers are at the tops of the hierarchies in this game. Peers meaning people that know me. You know what my heart is. You know who I am. You know, I cannot believe that as I've tried to help more in this game while also serving myself, how many of these people that know me just shut me down and kick me out of their life when I try to bring this into their world in a way that's only meant to serve them. It's astounding to me. So I'm not, you know, when I go see somebody, if I'm taking time out of my schedule to see somebody, you better believe that we're playing here, and that we expended in that short 48-hour visit with her, most of our energy was up here. And when it's up here, we're co-creating up here. And playing up here means we're surrendering a ton to spirit, to creation, and saying, use us in our human vessels, use our experiences, our knowledge, and our skill sets from this dimension to serve this, which also, by the way, helps this. You can't serve this without helping this. Okay, so it's just amazing. It's amazing because divine was absolutely positively working through us, and that was revealed in this magical way. So she and I directly shared it. And then what made it even better, my friend that's renting my place, and I have said this has been a ton of work because it's a very long history that we've had, and the first part of our history together was not so positive, and it was very intense and dramatic and painful and traumatic, and it hurt a lot. So it's a miracle. It's a miracle that what's going on with he and I is going on. It's another fucking miracle. And I had shared enough of the individual stories with him. I had told him about the interaction at the plasma place. Then we went on our little trip and we came back, and I had told him not only about that trip, but I had told him specifically this piece of information. Because when my friend spoke about this gentleman, one of the highlights was talking about how traumatic his experience for 10 years as an EMS, as a paramedic was. Like how it was unheard of that he was able to do the role for 10 years, and how much it affected him, and totally undervaluing what paramedics and their role in our society and what they see. And so that part was a huge energetic highlight of our conversations. And I shared that with my friend that lives with me. So he knew all the pieces, so that when I found out about this synchronicity, shortly after my last video 3 days ago, I went up to the Y where he works and where I have a membership. I went up to the Y because I couldn't wait to tell him until he got home. And when I told him the experience I had with him, because he's also experiencing similar synchronicities in his little life at the Y, and equally as big synchronicities. And so we've been sharing it back and forth with one another. So he knew immediately and could appreciate immediately how, the holy shit factor of what is going on. Okay, so I'm going to conclude for now because this was overly amped. I'm not even sure that I'm going to share it, but at least I've captured the details, the highlights, and a little bit of the energy, because again, I don't know what it means other than it's another tap on my shoulder from spirit to say, it's okay, surrender more, trust less, and let this be fun. Allow it to be fun and light. We got your back. Okay, we've got your back. So that's what my At the most general level for 2023, as I sit here and talk to you with barely 12 hours left of 2022, I'm telling you, I'm bound and determined to make it more fun, to make it easier, and to do so standing as tall as I've ever stood in the energy of who I am. Happy New Year.